Okay, ready? Three, two, one, start. So I'm going to basically just walk through some of the performances I've made before. And starting with this one, it was in COVID. I was just graduating and I was trying to figure out what it meant to be performing for an audience live. And I was really trying also to understand that everyone was in their own bedrooms and everyone was also trying to explore a new way of being online with each other. And I was watching a lot of Instagram Live and a lot of Twitch streams, and I was feeling this urge and this desire. I was like, why can't we just like be in each other's screens all the time? And why can't this really be like a way of performing? Because there's so much language that was being made about like, I'm going live, like send me your screenshots, like, hey chat, hi chat, chat, hi chat. And it's like, this feels totally new and a totally new way of engaging with audience. But also, I had so much knowledge about dance and like, this video is me doing it live, but all of this other components are, post editing experience. So that's what I was learning how to do. And I was shifting all these experiences from being live and having this experience of learning how to make dance live. And then I was like, well, how do I translate that to video? How do I translate that to an experience on screen? And I did this Fulbright in Taiwan, where I was then translating my experience of being a, soft power diplomacy person, a person who is doing this prestigious thing when all of my peers are still quarantined and still at home. And I was just like, well, I'm navigating this also through the screen. I'm navigating this through Instagram. And like, I have no way of contacting people other than like posting. So I really began to hone in on these skills of like, this feels surreal and strange. And that's the furthering of the audience. But I also was also very isolated from my audience and from the people who I was making for. So I furthered this exploration of choreographing for the screen through coming back to Taiwan, from Taiwan to the States, and applying for graduate school, applying for something that I felt like would get me towards this American dream of being, wealthy and successful and having a stable career in the arts. And to do so, I had to find my niche. And the niche began to come up as this overwhelming experience of the online. How do I navigate this? How do I show this experience as someone trained in dance and trained in performance, but also with all these video skills? So that's when I started making videos like this, which were really blending the screen recording aspect with the aspect of live performance and dancing. And during my time at grad school, I was able to do more large-scale performance projects, and I eventually was able to work on my thesis, which became a way of showing more of this experience I had with the online, but in a real proscenium theatrical, enormous production sort of way. And I was working with these elements of the green screen. I was working with these elements of the online, but I was figuring out how to work with a cast of dancers and to show this process of building a world that exists between online and virtual, online and IRL, I would say, through the process of mediating it through Zoom and having that be a sort of green screening, a sort of invisibility cloak that was hiding the dancers and creating a new hybrid world of digital, online, realness, a mix, And you can even see here, the dancers are becoming invisible, dancers are counting themselves down, they're being their own backstage hands, they're being their own green screens, and it's, to watch it, you have to navigate, do I watch the dancers live, or do I watch the screen, which is telling me one version of reality, while I'm seeing a totally different thing. So I furthered my dance career by, using the connections from grad school to get some pretty unbelievable dance experience in New York City, and working with New York Live Arts and having a premiere there. And that has really taught me about producing work in New York. But I'm also really interested in, we're at about 5 minutes here in the video, of creating the work that I did for my thesis, but on a much smaller scale and with New York City dancers. And I was able to do this with dancers in my undergrad university that invited me back as a guest artist. And you can see that I worked with dancers on a much smaller scale. It was only 4 of them. And I also worked with students to create this live interface, chat interface, where they were live reacting to the performance. But I also was able to work with musicians and recreate the music score in a way within this 2-week process, which ended up being very important to collaboration because a lot of the students didn't really want to perform, but were interested in somehow being a part of it still. And when I was in grad school, I was able to work with Cody Jensen, who, he just won a Bessie Award for music composition. So that's a totally different scale. But this is like the experience of working with people in New York, is that it's just so varied. And what I want to say about this is that it really forced me to learn and figure out what skills I wanted to focus in on with the dancers and with the dancing in general, and what the piece evolved to be. So here you can see the sort of final version of it and what it became after those 2 weeks. And this is the sort of jumping off point that I would start this process with, where I know how it looks in the final version. I know what we could get to, but it's just the matter of having enough money to rent rehearsal space, to rehearse regularly, and to have a final showing to work towards, and to have a core group of people to work with in New York, and to work towards something rather than being drawn to a bunch of different projects, and to having to rely on residencies outside of the state and residencies that I'm not working with a core group of people. So with 8 minutes, I feel like that is enough, maybe. I'll just let this video play because I think this camera is going to die, and I have to sync up all the audio, make sort of a video before the deadline of this. But this is all to say that I feel like I have a process and I have a vision of mediating live performance and the experience I have as a dancer, and navigating dance and performance with improv and like figuring it out on the fly. But also that is the way that we are going to accomplish anything with technology that we don't understand how to use, if that makes any sense. Like automated technology, algorithmic technology is something that feels so scary at times because it feels so impossible to have any control. But in processes like these, we can see dancers actually take back control. So that is a 9-minute synopsis of what I would do with this fellowship.